Why do some teams pull together in the face of danger, while others collapse under pressure? Why do some organizations inspire loyalty, while others leave people exhausted and disengaged? The answer is leadership. True leaders create environments where people feel safe, valued, and inspired to give their best. This book matters because it explains the biology of trust, the psychology of teamwork, and the responsibility of leaders to serve before being served. The circle of safety. Imagine a tribe thousands of years ago. Survival depended on trust. Members protected each other from predators, hunger, and rival tribes. The leader's responsibility was to expand the circle of safety, ensuring that threats remained outside so the group could focus on cooperation rather than fear. In modern organizations, the same principle applies. When leaders shield their teams from external pressures, people feel secure and innovate freely. When leaders protect only themselves, fear spreads and cooperation collapses. Neuroscience supports this idea. Research by Paul Zak on oxytocin shows that trust and cooperation increase when people feel protected. Safety at work is not just physical, but emotional, chemicals that drive human behavior. Our bodies produce chemicals that shape behavior: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Each serves a purpose. Endorphins mask pain, dopamine rewards progress, serotonin reinforces pride and status. Oxytocin builds trust and bonding. These chemicals evolved to help humans survive as social animals. However, cortisol, the stress chemical, appears when we feel threatened. Leaders influence which chemicals dominate the workplace. Supportive leadership raises serotonin and oxytocin. Selfish leadership increases cortisol, eroding trust and health. For example, a soldier in battle experiences dopamine-driven focus when achieving objectives, but oxytocin keeps him fighting for the person beside him. Remove trust and fear takes over. Endorphins and dopamine. Endorphins mask pain during effort. Dopamine motivates us to achieve goals. Both drive individual performance by help us push through obstacles and celebrate milestones. A marathon runner feels endorphins when pain fades into a euphoric high. A professional receives dopamine when finishing a project. However, relying only on dopamine creates addiction to rewards, causing leaders to chase numbers while neglecting people. Studies in behavioral science confirm that dopamine addiction fuels short-term thinking, which is destructive when unchecked. Leaders must balance dopamine with serotonin and oxytocin to sustain long-term trust. Serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin comes from recognition. Oxytocin grows from trust and shared vulnerability. Together, they create loyalty. Leaders who celebrate achievements of their teams increase serotonin levels. Leaders who prioritize relationships and demonstrate care build oxytocin. Consider a military officer who receives a medal. The pride he feels is serotonin, but the bond with comrades who fought beside him is oxytocin. This combination makes him loyal not to the medal, but to the people. Experiments by Harvard psychologist David McClelland showed that people who release oxytocin from social bonds live longer, healthier lives. Trust is not soft. It is a survival mechanism. The dangers of cortisol. Cortisol signals danger. Short bursts keep us alert. Prolonged exposure damages health, weakens immunity, and breaks trust. Organizations driven by fear create chronic cortisol in employees. Workers focus on self-preservation, not collaboration. A company obsessed with quarterly targets often sacrifices long-term trust. Leaders who fire workers to protect profits send a signal: safety is gone. People retreat into self-interest, and cooperation collapses. Medical studies confirm that chronic cortisol leads to heart disease, anxiety, and reduced cognitive function. Leadership that creates fear literally destroys both people and organizations. Leadership as sacrifice. In the military, officers eat last. They ensure their troops are fed before themselves. This principle reflects that true leadership is service, not privilege. Leaders sacrifice comfort, recognition, or profit to protect those they lead. Robert Chapman, CEO of Barry Wemler, refused to lay off workers during economic downturns. Instead, he introduced shared sacrifice through furloughs. Everyone gave up something small so that no one lost everything. Morale rose and loyalty deepened. This shows that sacrifice strengthens bonds. When people feel their leader will protect them, they respond with commitment and creativity. Abundance versus scarcity. When resources feel abundant, people share and cooperate. When resources feel scarce, fear drives hoarding and competition. Leaders set the tone. By creating trust and fairness, they inspire abundance. Consider a workplace where leaders hoard credit and bonuses. Employees compete instead of collaborating. Now picture a workplace where recognition is shared and growth opportunities are distributed fairly. The second produces abundance thinking, which multiplies results. Psychology research on social exchange confirms that fairness fosters cooperation even at personal cost. People will sacrifice for the group when they trust leaders to reciprocate. The impact of leadership on generations. Different generations respond to leadership differently. Millennials, raised in an environment of technology and instant gratification, often seek purpose and recognition. Without trust and mentorship, they disengage quickly. Leaders must adapt by focusing not only on numbers, but also on relationships. By investing in people's growth and giving meaning to their work, leaders attract loyalty across generations. Research by Deloitte on workplace culture shows that millennials prefer companies with purpose-driven missions over higher salaries. Leadership today requires more than strategy. It requires heart. Leadership in crisis. Crisis reveals true leaders. When everything collapses, people look for someone who provides stability and safety. Leaders who panic spread fear. Leaders who remain calm create confidence. Captain Chesley Sullenberger landing U.S. Airways Flight 1549 on the Hudson River is a vivid example. He placed passenger safety above his own, guided by training and composure. His actions turned potential disaster into survival for all. Crisis does not build character, it reveals it. Leaders who consistently build trust before crisis are the ones people will follow through chaos. Leadership as a choice. Leadership is not about rank or title. It is a choice to serve. A person with authority may lack leadership. A person with little authority can still lead through trust, empathy, and sacrifice. A janitor who looks out for colleagues shows leadership. A manager who hides behind numbers shows only authority. People follow leaders, not titles. Studies in organizational psychology prove that employees are more engaged when they feel their leaders care about them personally. Titles may command compliance, but care inspires commitment. Building a culture of trust. Trust grows when leaders consistently put people first. This requires transparency, recognition, fairness, and sacrifice. Over time, trust compounds, creating a culture where people feel safe to innovate and collaborate. Consider the difference between a company where employees fear punishment and one where they feel supported even after mistakes. The first stifles creativity. The second produces breakthroughs. Google's Project Aristotle found that psychological safety is the #1 factor for high-performing teams. This validates the book's central idea. Leaders who protect people unleash performance. The responsibility of leaders. Leadership carries weight. It is not just about profits, but about lives. Every decision affects people's, families, health, and future. Leaders who recognize this responsibility act with humility and care. When a CEO sacrifices bonuses to save jobs, trust grows. When politicians prioritize the vulnerable over lobbyists, society flourishes. Leadership is stewardship, not ownership. Conclusion: leadership is not eating first. Leadership is eating last. It is building circles of safety, fueling bonds of trust, and choosing service over self-interest. It is understanding human biology, psychology, and responsibility. Here is your challenge for the next week. Ask yourself before every decision, am I protecting my people or am I protecting myself? Each choice builds or breaks trust. Over time, these choices define whether you are a leader people fear or a leader people would sacrifice for. True leadership is not given. It is earned every day when leaders eat last.